thank you so much for joining us for our expert session, how Falcon Ridge uses on-course management technology to enhance the play experience and generate revenue. My name is Bodo Sieber, Tag Marshal CEO, and I have with me today Rob Wursten, the GM at Falcon Ridge Golf Club in Nevada. Rob, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Very good, other than tech problems, which we hope are temporary. And I have from our team in Atlanta, our customer success associate, Jack Green. Jack, how are you?
Hey, Bodo. I'm great. Looking forward to going through everything.
I was fully expecting you in some sort of Braves outfit, but you're being inclusive today. Thank you.
I had to dress the part.
Amazing. We also want to do a quick announcement on behalf of the PGA Southwest section. Many of you would have found your way onto the webinar via them, and their manager Baxter unfortunately could not join us, but I believe he sent a message for Jack to read out. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got it right here. So he just wanted to welcome everybody to this webinar hosted by Tag Marshal and featuring Rob from Falcon Ridge. He has apologies he couldn't make it to the webinar. He's currently busy with prep for the Arizona Open. So he wanted to welcome the Southwest PGA members, Rob Wursten, the general manager from Falcon Ridge, Bodo Sieber, our CEO at Tag Marshal. We've been a proud partner with Tag Marshal for a number of years and hope you enjoy this expert webinar and gain insights on how their technology can positively impact your facility. PDR credits will be applied to the Southwest PGA attendees.
Amazing. That's the magic word, PDR credits, right? So I believe in your registration, you would have given us your details and they automatically get applied. You just have to stick with us. But we have an exciting, just under an hour ahead. And let's go on to our expert guest. Rob, why don't you do us a favor and introduce your one-of-a-kind facility. I have had the privilege of visiting Falcon Ridge last season, and it's absolutely amazing that just getting up there from Vegas. It's the most spectacular landscape, and then to have such a beautiful golf course right in it, nestled in residential, is quite unreal, and the guys have done a fantastic job in making it what it is. But Rob, give us the introduction and also about yourself and how you got to land up being the GM at Falcon Ridge.
I haven't always been in golf business. I was in the food business before, but my little brother, who runs 2 courses here in town, asked me if I would come up and help him with this course, and I did. And ended up having the GM position here. I managed this course and I did Coral Canyon for a couple of years. I managed them both at the same time for about 6 months, but that was a bit much. So turned that over to my assistant who was up there, and now I just run this one. So, and happy to be down here. We're about 77 miles from Las Vegas. It's all freeway all the way, but it's a destination. We're kind of a resort course. It's a little different than Las Vegas because we get groups of 40 to anywhere from actually 24 all the way up to 144. And if they find their way up here, they'll find that it is a very intimate setting where if you go into a casino in Las Vegas, you won't probably see many of your buddies. Whereas if you're here, you'll probably be sitting with all of them. So in the casinos. So town is golf and gaming. There is some industry here, but it's not very big. We're about 12,000 people in the summer and about 20,000 in the winter. A lot of snowbirds. So tells you a little bit about our course as far as where we're at.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. So what would a trip normally look like by a group? They would hopefully play with Falcon Ridge, and yeah, do they normally make it part of a Vegas outing, or do they specifically come your way?
And they usually come our way. There's 7 championship golf courses here in the town, and so we have people who come. They book about 4 courses. They play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday usually. That's usually their agenda. Some of them only play 3 days, but they'll pick one of the three or four courses. I mean, one of the 7. We're always wanting to be in the rotation, obviously, but it works out great for them. A lot of them will rent. Some of them rent great big buses. We have a group from Canada that rents, huge buses, and then a lot of them will rent like smaller ones to come up here and drive around. But not a lot of traffic here, so it's easy. Any golf course is in the 5 minutes of each other.
Sounds like a perfect getaway from Vegas, actually. And that's how I felt when I came up, really, because I can only do Vegas in hourly increments, not daily increments. It's too much for my nervous system. It's because I'm old. I know, Jack, you can't wait to go. Just last question. How many rounds do you do a year, and what is your sort of prime rate at the top of your season, just to get an idea?
Top of the season's around 175. And we do anywhere from 40 to 48,000 rounds a year.
Busy.
Yes.
And you do, what, 70% of that in 6 months?
Yeah, 6-7 months, because we have like 7 to 6-7 weeks with November and October. Right at Thanksgiving, everything kind of drops off. Everybody travels, wants to be with their families. They're not looking to play golf usually that time of year. So usually February through May, and we get a little bit in June, and then obviously those 6 weeks in October, November.
Yeah, for sure. Jack, I know you've worked with Rob's team extensively. What has been your impression?
Yeah, Rob is a great operator. Him and his team, they've taken the bull by the horns using the Tag Marshal system. They've had a really great impact on their overall average round time compared to last year not having our system, and this year now having our system. I know that they have also been utilizing our food and beverage module to help cut time down at the turn. So they'll utilize the advertising piece, have orders come in. And they actually have the phone ring and a pop-up on their window to alert their team about when an order is placed, so they can get it prepared. And those groups of 40 that Rob alluded to can move on with their round and not have a 5-hour round out there. So they've been using this system at a really high level for being their first season with us, and have seen some great results from that.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll get into the detail. And Rob, thanks again for your time, and also for putting up your hand and say, yeah, you'll share what it is that you're doing and some of the results you're achieving. Thank you, Jack. If you'll allow me just a quick introduction to Tag Marshal. We've been in the industry now for 9 years, and our goal is to help change the industry and help drive it forward into a technology-enabled future. We've tracked more than 75 million rounds, and we now work with 600 partners all over. This particular year, we're very proud to have 2 major hosts in Pinehurst and Valhalla. Both of them have been multi-year partners of ours. And for us, it's obviously a huge privilege to work with some of the best in the business and get input from them, what they need, because they're the ones that really drive the industry forward, and they run their operation like, the majority of the industry will follow them, right? What they're doing now and the advancements that they're putting in place now is where the rest of the industry will follow in 3 to 5 years' time. So for us, it's amazing to work with them and learn from them. But it's equally as amazing to see the impact that we can have, and also get the hands-on feedback from the good courses down the road, whether they're private or daily fee. And on top of that, we also learning from the tour world. So we official We partner with the DP World Tour and the Challenge Tour, and right now we're actually at a USGA event, having done some of the amateur events this year in the tournament tracking space. And there's lots to learn for us too that we then feed back into our system. Yeah, and we the Southwest section is one of our, I think, 12 or 13 section partners. So we're also looking to give back and obviously help grow the game. It's been an amazing ride, but like I said to the team every year, it's only the beginning, because there's just so much that we still want to do and to contribute to this awesome industry. Oh, and I see it here now, St Andrews Links over in Scotland, yeah, the home of golf. Them having switched on our technology has been a bit of a milestone, because they're so incredibly traditional, and it's been great to see how they dial into it and getting such good use out of it. But let's jump back to Rob. Yeah, you can see the amazing setup and how beautiful this course is nestled into the rocks there in Nevada. Rob, if I asked you from a player experience standpoint, and obviously you see many players, you love your golf, have also been involved at the other course that's part of your group. If you had to pick 3 that are the top experience factors that an operator needs to get right out of course design, course conditioning, clubhouse and amenities, pace and flow of play, playing partners, who's in my group, that's from a player's perspective, obviously accessibility, tee times availability, value, cost. Which 3 would you put your money on if you had to pick 3 to float to the top?
Well, I would choose probably course conditioning first, because I think that's what they look for, especially greens, more than anything, that the greens have to be extremely nice for them to enjoy it. Probably second would be cost. Second would be customer service. And you could kind of combine a lot of these things, pace and play, partners, into to customer service, along with the amenities, because all that is something that you're offering. So I would combine some of those into customer service. And then the third one, I would put cost is the third one, I would think. So that's how I would view it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The value, right, is what do players consider as value? And I do think if you've got great conditioning, nice greens, your service level is high, your pace and flow of play is good, they would say, that's take my money, right? And I'll come back again next season. So I think yeah, you're making good points. I just want to note, yeah, the fairways here. This is obviously something that you guys have decided in terms of it's more economical for you to run. Just explain that briefly for those of you who may not have seen that before.
We have extreme heat in the summertime. So like right now in the last 3 weeks, we've probably averaged, and this is exceptionally hot, 116 degrees we've averaged every day for like the last 3 weeks. Our normal average about this time of year is around 108. But what happens is we have 2 grasses. We have rye and we have Bermuda. The rye will burn out in the summertime, and the Bermuda is a dormant grass, which means that when it heats up, it will just come right up from where the rye is. We do have to overseed the golf course every year for rye, because if we didn't, it would all look like the sides you're looking at right now. It'd all be dormant. But in the beginning, we used to go wall to wall, which means that we would overseed everything. We decided to what we call sculpt the golf course with the dormant Bermuda along with the ryegrass for season, and it turns out really nice. We have lots of great compliments about the way it looks. So we stayed with that, and then as things got more expensive, it became very economical for us because it cut our costs significantly with seed. So it's been great for us.
Yeah, and it looks great. It's so interesting, and I think also your other input costs must be lowered, irrigation and so on, all of those expensive items, especially in the area where you're at. So good decision and ahead of your time. Yeah, very cool to see. Yeah, let's jump into what the research says about that question that we just asked. So the USGA obviously has studied that extensively from a player's standpoint, and they found that in 84% of players say conditioning is top as an experience factor. And then the second in line is who's in my playing group, which hopefully, if there's tee times accessible, they can design themselves. And number three, also very high at, I think 76% is pace and flow of play. So it is a critical element to the player experience. But from a player journey standpoint, and this is something that was presented also at the USGA's Golf Innovation Symposium by a partner that does post-round surveys, and they figure out what are the things that matter most to golfers. And what they found is that if players are feeling welcome at a club, that speaks to service, right? If there's good flow out on the golf course, and this is an important point, if they meet on-course staff, there's a higher percentage on restaurant visits, and also the net promoter score is really high. So those are the things we need to get right. Net promoter score, for those of you who don't know, the NPS is when an airline or a bank or a restaurant asks you, or a resort, wherever you've been, would you recommend this service facility, whatever it is, to your colleagues and family, rated out of 10, right? So normally what happens, if we've been extremely unhappy, we'd rate it 0 or 1. If we've been delighted, we'd rate it 9 or 10. Very often, if it's in the middle somewhere, we don't bother, right? But it's obviously important for any business owner to know what is the sentiment, and are we trending up or are we getting worse? And some of these these results show that if players are not feeling welcome, there's bad flow out on the golf course, they don't meet anyone out there, they don't feel looked after, their restaurant visits drop and their net promoter score tanks, right? So no, I wouldn't recommend this, I wouldn't come back. So those two research sources show conditioning, always good to invest in, and the common denominator is flow and the service level, right? Meeting people on the course. Yeah, just to wrap this up quickly, because this seems so obvious, right? But it's just important to see the impact it has on restaurant visits, which obviously we want, that's revenue, but also net promoter score, which means intent to return visits, and people say good things about us. And I know, Rob, that the flow of play is something that you have really highlighted as something you want to get right, because if it goes bad, people have opinions and they'll share with everyone out there, right? So that is exactly what -33 net promoter score looks like. We'll talk about a bit more about what that looks like at Falcon Ridge, but the flow impact on net promoter score is immediate, right? Medium to good flow means it contributes to net promoter score. If it's bad flow, it's nuclear, it tanks. So that's the one thing to really focus on and get right. Players are extremely sensitive about it. And we all know that if something happens on tour on any weekend and there's slow play incidents, Twitter, or X as it's now called, blows up with people's opinions, right? Because they can all relive that, and they've seen it, they lived it, and they're extremely sensitive to it. Let's jump into the technology side of our session. Using tech and data to proactively manage pace of play, enhancing the play experience. Rob, like you said, service levels, you tie that immediately to your amenities, your people, and the flow and pace of play. Let's take a quick look at the system before we find out how and which system Falcon Ridge uses. Jack, if I can ask you just to do a 2-minute outline of the various system items that Tag Marshall offers, and then how that all feeds into the back end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tag Marshall offers a solution for walking groups and for cart groups. Every course is going to have a combination of both. So having some form of a combination of both lines of devices will allow you to have that full line of sight of your facility. At the top left, you'll see our classic walking tag, which is that black box. That is actually inserted into a pouch that can be either clipped on a push cart maybe a caddy can hold that into his bib or clipped onto the bag directly and put onto a golf cart. So that's strictly just a line of sight tool. The cart version of that would be in the center of the screen. You see the black box at the bottom right. That is installed physically into a cart. It could also be installed onto a staff cart. So whether that's a Marshall cart, beverage cart, or maybe some mowers, you can actually track your staff and get mowing patterns or see the loops that they're running on the course as well. And on the screens that you see here, we do have a mobile screen. So it's basically the size of an iPhone. That provides you our two-way capabilities that you would for our installed screen on the cart. So they do the exact same thing. Two-way, meaning that you can communicate with that device via a message or an alert, as well as do any advertising, or from Rob's point of view, they like to do the food and beverage ordering, so they can actually order directly from those screens. And that order is actually sent to the Tag Marshal system, which is highlighted on the right side, through an alert that you can customize. The data as we track rounds, the color code that you see in the analytics hub is an indicator for whether a group is in position, out of position, holding up play, or being held up by play. So each round that we track, each data point that we track contributes to the analytics hub, which Rob and his team utilize to catch a delaying group early in their round, making a positive impact on the flow and pace of play for each group thereafter, and kind of nipping that in the bud before that kind of derails things. So through this product line, we're able to provide that line of sight and data for our partners. And in the bottom left, we also have a mobile app for our caddies as well, which is a virtual tag that our caddies can utilize, that you can utilize to manage your caddies as well.
Thanks, Jack. I know that the Falcon Ridge obviously use the 8-inch. Rob, from your point of view, and just looking at what the player sees, how's that working for the club and obviously for your guests?
It works great. We've had other GPSs and we've had glare problems, and where the GPS kind of dims out or the sunlight kind of takes away from what they're seeing. With these screens, we haven't had any of those issues at all. So the size of the screen is great. We used to have bigger ones at one point, several years ago, where people bump their head on them when they get into the cart. These are perfect for what we're trying to do here.
We have really looked long and hard to find the brightest possible screen. It's as bright as an iPhone 13 because we know it's in an outdoor environment. But I wasn't sure how it would handle the crazy heat that you guys have got in Nevada. But because it doesn't have a built-in battery, which is a bit of a weak spot with extreme conditions like extreme cold or heat, it actually, our engineer would say, of course it can do that, right? It's actually agriculturally tested, but I still wanted to see the proof in the pudding. And we have obviously got it going in other hot areas, and Florida summer is also not an easy place. But yeah, great to have your feedback. And like I said, the screen brightness is one of the key attributes of what we're trying to provide. And then obviously it has its touch screen. You can see your yardage. If you want to dial in your superintendent, they can put to the pin locations in, otherwise front and the back of green. And what it does is, other than the two-way comms, and you can see hole by hole movement as you go, it also gives you a pace update, a pace status. And that's obviously great for the players to self-manage. But I think let's dial into what Rob and the team see at the course. So Rob, this is sort of the control room, and you can already see that Falcon Ridge is not an easy course to manage. Like, it wraps around various hills, rocky outcrops, and residential. It's quite spread out. So for you to have any sort of line of sight with traditional means would be near impossible. So how are you going to keep things moving and players happy? Obviously having this bird's eye view, satellite-based view is very helpful. Rob, who have you got dialed in at the operation that is making use of the back end and looking at the live play as it happens?
Well, for us, we integrated with the POS system, which really helps us. So all the cards get numbered with their names. So the T sheet pops right into an iPad, so the starter has all that information of who's coming down, and they can see that. Then they assign the carts, so we know who's on carts and where they're at. We used to have two marshals, one on the front, one on the back. We only need one marshal now. So we have a screen up in our pro shop that kind of manages. We watch pace of play, and when groups get behind, we send marshals out, or we can send actually a message out to them to make sure that they're moving along. And it's been great. Our pace of play has been under what we anticipated.
Great. Look, it all comes down to being proactive, right? But if you want to be proactive, you need to know where. And this is really what we've made our hallmark in terms of we want the system to be as accurate as possible, as intuitive as possible. Yeah, we can see a whole lot of colored icons on here. Jack, if I can ask you to just, I mean, you know the system inside and out, but what are we looking at here right now? What's the situation on this at this moment at Falcon Ridge? That's not live, obviously. That's an unknown point in time, but just explain the colors and the sizes and things like that to us.
Absolutely. So the Tag Marshal system has a unique color code that allows our partners to easily identify whether a group is in position, out of position, holding up groups, or being delayed by a delayer group. So the purple tag that you see here, the purple is going to be, I like to say purple is problem. The alliteration there kind of helps drive home the fact that you're trying to identify that problem group. And those groups being held up are going to be indicated as orange. The groups that are in position are going to be green. And the groups that are out of position, they're not being held up, they're not causing a delay, they're just simply out of position, those would be red. So if you look at our gap time monitor at the bottom of the screen, you can see easily the gaps in between and behind all groups. And on hole 5, you can actually see that bottleneck start to accumulate. And so what Rob and his team would do is they would either send a message to cart 33, 34, and 35, letting them know that they're holding up the groups behind them and that they're only 5 holes in, and they're 6 minutes out of position. At the top right, you can actually see their pace trend. And see their group status trend. So off the first hole, they were green. Second hole, they were red, and they've been a delayer thereafter. If you go further down on that window, you'll see the hole times, and those red holes are the holes that they played over their goal time that they've set for each hole. And you can see how that's contributed to the last 3 holes that they've played have been purple. You can also see the player names there as well. So should you choose to intervene directly in person, you can approach this group by name, which always goes a lot better than just approaching a group and saying, hey, you guys are slow. You can call them out by their names and say, hey, Jim, Hubert, we know that you guys are doing your best to stay in position, but the groups behind you are being held up. So it's more of a personal conversation. And you can use the data to back that up and highlight.
Jack, I noticed that you gave 2 approaches now. The one said slow, the other said out of position. Just give us a reason for that.
It's always in the verbiage, right? Out of position is going to be a group that, might have a significant gap in between, them and the group ahead. Whereas a slow group may, not necessarily be, as far out of position as a group that would have a significant gap ahead of them.
Yeah, so what we've learned is that players, obviously, slow play is a big thing, right? And players don't want to be called slow. So the way that you position this now, you say you're out of position, or you're half a hole out of position, or that is just much more stomachable for a player to hear, right? And obviously it helps to have the data with it. Yeah, so Rob, it's great to hear that you've been able to reduce your staffing needs and your labor needs, given how the system helps you. We want to jump into this one suggestion that that Jack just had, that you can send a message out to the group. You can send it to all the cards, or you can send it to a single group or a number of cards, you can decide. And obviously that allows for just general messages. It could be a pace update, or it could be a weather warning. It could be anything that you want, security warning, anything. And we found a lot of clubs finding that quite helpful. But there's also other messaging that allows for keeping players compliant, and one of those is the geofencing, which I know that you have set up at Falcon Ridge. So yeah, you can see that there's obviously green protection in place, and there might be a setup for cart pass only at some of the holes or at all of them. And the ultimate litmus test here is, what does the greenkeeper think? Is this working, right? Because they are in charge of making sure that conditioning is good year round, and they want to make sure that things are protected. So Rob, from your greenkeeper's perspective, from your perspective, how's this working for Falcon Ridge? And is it doing the job for you guys?
It actually works great. We used to, let's just take the overseed. We overseed for 3 weeks, and we're cart path only for 2 weeks. Overseed for 3 weeks, and then we're cart path only for 2 weeks after that. So with those 2 weeks, we have to keep people on the cart pass, and we used to have to put up ropes on every hole, which takes extensive time to do it. Now all we have to do is hit a button, and it keeps the carts on the path. It alerts them if they start to go off to remind them, please stay on the cart path. And again, with the view of what we can see, if we see somebody who has drifted onto the fairway, we can have a marshal go right on over and say, hey guys, you got to remember, we can't have you on the cart, we can't have you on the grass right now. So that's great. If we have areas that are worn out or stuff, instead of putting up ropes, we can block those off with geofence, so that again it alerts them not to drive into those areas, which has been very helpful for us. Also, we do have handicapped golfers out there. Obviously, everybody has them on their golf course, and sometimes they slow down play a little bit. And I was going to address what Jack said a little bit ago about out of position. That's kind of a tough thing sometimes, because if the group in front is everybody that the course is running 22 or 23 minutes ahead, and these people are on pace and they're a little older and they're trying to do the best they can, it's kind of hard to go up to them and say, hey, you got to catch up with the group in front of you. It creates a bad taste in their mouth, but we try to help them to stay up with the group without making them feel uncomfortable. So our marshals will go out and say, hey, you can drive here or here. We'll put your cart on handicap so you can drive a little closer to the greens, which will go past the geofence without having the alerts go off. So it helps a lot to have the geofencing for a lot of different reasons, but it works great for us, especially with not having to have so many ropes up.
That's great. So technically how it works is there's a visual alert that pops up, right? So it goes over the range finding, and then there's a beeper sound. It's like a truck reversing, basically, so it's hard to ignore it. And generally, players, they get it, right? And then they go back to where they're supposed to be. So what we traditionally don't do is hard stop the cart, because we believe, like we've done our research, and players don't generally like that. They're feeling patronized, and also it can slow down play quite significantly, especially if players needing to figure out how to reverse out of an area. So we give them benefit of the doubt, and for the feedback that we're getting from the greenkeepers is it works, it does what it's supposed to do. So that's great. I believe there's some blind shots at Falcon Ridge, and I could see why. So you've got the ability, obviously, to see the group ahead. Is that something that's probably also has a bit of a pace impact, right?
Yeah, that was one of the critical things that we needed for our golf courses, because we have 4 blind shots on the golf course, and people would have to drive up and they would have to wait to see, and then they would have to drive back before they could hit. It really slowed down play. Now they can see where the carts are, and once they move out of the way, they're able to hit, and you can actually see, it shows you exactly how far the carts are in front of you. So if you're a big hitter and it's 250 or something, you want to wait, then you can wait. But if you're less than that, then you can go ahead and hit away, because you can see exactly the distance that the carts are in front of you. And you can see the hole in the configuration, which helps a lot as well.
Sure, especially because you have a lot of first-time players, right? So if they had to first figure out the lay of the land, it would it would slow things down, and they wouldn't have as good an experience. And then over and above that, you also have quite a bit of elevation on some of the areas. Jack, maybe you want to explain how that setup works, because I know you've implemented it at other hilly golf setups that you work with.
Yeah, so there's really two ways to accomplish this. Obviously, the geofence alert is going to make a sound and draw attention to the screen. That will flash, and you can customize that note that says you've entered a geofenced area. You can actually say, steep grade ahead, proceed with caution. You can also accomplish this by setting up advertisements to trigger in those areas. So if, say, there's a steep decline going from a tee box down to a fairway, as that group enters the fairway zone, the course is set up to where that in the back end, you can actually indicate that, hey, we'd like for this advertisement to communicate to our players, steep grade ahead, proceed with caution, as they enter that area of the course. And you can choose to have a sound or to not have a sound, but just like the geofence, it does take away the range finding. So they're going to be interested in seeing the map as they drive, especially if they don't know where they're supposed to go on the course, with it being their first time there. So drawing their attention to the screen and communicating that can be accomplished in a couple different ways, but it seems to really do the job and communicate and limit the injury risk, as well as the damage to carts by driving in a steep area with recklessly.
Which a golfer would never do, right?
Never, especially with a few drinks.
No, exactly. Okay, great. Rob, earlier you mentioned that obviously you want to be mindful of wear and tear, and so this is another feature where we're using data to visualize. We call it a heat map. So this is basically showing, where do the carts go, where do they park, where do they spend a lot of time. So this is also interesting for the supers to dial into, to be preemptive, but also they can see where do carts never go, right? So when there's a design decision to be made, do we need to, or can we reduce fairway turf? Well, this is very helpful, right? And so it's just something to keep in mind. I know that you have looked at this at times, and also it shows, is our geofencing working? Is our signage working? Or do people cut across areas like we could not have anticipated? So again, data helpful. I have to keep us on pace a little bit. That's my job. Harnessing technology to generate additional revenue. Obviously, that's the name of the game. But again, look at this amazing landscape. Which hole is that at Falcon Ridge, Rob?
That's number 1.
Incredible. Must go back. So from a revenue standpoint, you mentioned that you have the food order dialed in. Obviously, you want to, and also you have drinks carts out that are being tracked. How's that working from a saving time point of view, and also how's it working from increasing revenue out on the course point of view?
Well, we found it very, it's been enlightening for us, because we always wondered how this would work. But along with, the safety features of being alerted for steep downhills, and because we have 2 very steep hills with speed bumps, and so when it alerts them that they're coming to a spot, we also have put alerts on the GPSs for hole number 8 and 17. and 17 due to shotguns that we have, so that they can order food at those points and it'll be ready for them when they come to the clubhouse. We have lots of compliments about this. It's very easy to use. It's not cumbersome for the guests, and they're able to order food. It beeps at them when they get to that hole, says if you'd like to order food, shows some very nice pictures of our menu and some of the pictures of our food, and they can order and pick it right up on the turn. It used to be that we would have to find them in the restaurant. If they stopped at the turn, some of them be sitting at tables and stuff, and it slowed it. I mean, it could be 20 minutes behind real quick if they stop at the turn and spend a lot of time. So it's helped us a lot to be able to do that. And with 200 to 300 golfers a day coming through here, you have to stay up on what everybody's doing out there to make sure that everybody has a good experience.
Sure. And also the great weather out, you can sell a lot of drinks, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that's your drinks carts are tracked as well. What's the benefit of doing that for you guys?
Well, for us, it's, we'll get a call once in a while, where's the drink cart, and so we usually have two, so we don't have too much of that. We usually have one on the front, one on the back on our busy days, which so that we make sure that all the customers are taken care of out there. But still, sometimes I'll call in and say, hey, we haven't seen a drink cart. We'll find out where they're at. We can say, hey, they're on this hole. You're within a hole of them. And then sometimes we can call the drink cart and say, hey, can you get to this spot? These guys are really thirsty and they'd like to see a drink cart. But for the most part, it's being able to let the customer know that this is where the drink cart is. So it's, for them, it's like, well, these guys are on top of things. They know where their drink carts are. They know what's going on their golf course. And it's been great for us. And the way that it's integrated in with our system, when they order the food, it comes right into the restaurant, goes right to their screens, and it doesn't take long for this to happen. It's been a wonderful system for the food and beverage for us.
That's brilliant to hear. So we're going to look into some of the analytics just now, and we do actually have a halfway house as a time marker, right? Because very often, as you said, if that's not managed well, that's where the overruns happen. That's where the runtime really gets blown out. So it's good to keep tabs on it and also optimize your processes around it. That's what it's all about. Obviously, another opportunity with interfacing with the golfers to run ads potentially. So a lot of our partners use that to offset a cost very successfully, and also goes well with golf days and so on, just as an extension of advertising opportunities. We even have our own in-house team that helps clubs dial into that if they don't have the capacity to do it. So we'll do it for you. In your case, Rob, I know that you're using it more for your internal communication. Do you have any ads running, or is it something that you maybe want to look at in the future?
We probably will do more of our in-house stuff. Like I say, we're a resort course, so advertising for things in the city is really not productive for them. So, but if you live in an area where you get a lot, like a country club or something, the city would be a very viable option for advertising. But it does work for your pro shop. It does work for some of the other courses. So you can advertise, hey, play this golf course if, because we obviously, we don't view the other courses here as competitors, more as, because if they're not in good shape, it's a destination, they're not going to come. We need everybody to be in good shape, and we need everybody to be productive here for all these groups to come. So we've talked to them about maybe advertising for their golf courses, and we've had a lot of good feedback on that. So we'll probably do that as well. Try this course for another round.
Yeah, that's really something that stuck with me, Rob. How you think of yourselves as a town, as a destination, right? And how you really partnering with the other clubs. Yeah, and it really makes good sense. And I think I think you mentioned you booked up quite a bit in advance now, aren't you? So that
Yeah, we'll
speaks
probably be
to
about 70% full for March and April right now, and
yeah.
we should be pretty much full come another 2 or 3 months. We should be pretty much full.
Yeah, that says it all. So it's working. From a revenue standpoint, one of the things that we're really big on with Tagmarsh is obviously optimization, right? So our first goal is always how can we improve the quality of your product in terms of your round times are adhered to like clockwork, and then you start improving on your average round times. And this is actually the season at Falcon Ridge coming in at 4:26 versus a 4:30 a goal time, which is that is quite ambitious, right? So to come in like clockwork is a great result. So for us, the goal is how can we stabilize that and make sure there's no flare-ups, no bad days, number one, and then how can we dial into making it even better, right? How can we then aim for 4:20? How can we aim for 4:15? Or how can we understand the data better so that at certain parts of the season, and that's or at certain parts of the day, for instance, your early before 7 a.m., 7 to 8, like your players are going in at 4:03, right? So what's the opportunities or later in the day to potentially tighten intervals or to get smart around optimization strategies to find another tea time or two in our day. And this is obviously every course is different. The more repeat play you have, the faster players will play. With you have it's new for everyone very often, or people play there once a year. You have a bit more variability in your players, but very often there's opportunities. So this is always something that we want to keep in mind, especially as we go into year 2 or 3 with a partner, and as we can dial into this. And much like the improvements that you've seen around the halfway house, all of this is incremental, right? And if we can shave off 1 minute here, 2 minutes there, 5 minutes here, then once we've done our optimization, we're working through that, we've incrementally arrived at a 25-minute or so improvement, and that is worth 2 tea times potentially, right? So we're always looking to bring that in and keep that in mind as we work with the club and also gather more data. And on the data topic, understanding course pace and flow. So here's a good day at the office for Falcon Ridge, where you're bringing through how many players? 37 groups. That's not nothing in 4 hours, right? So they would have all been happy and spent an extra $20 in the clubhouse afterwards because you gave them more time. Rob, to what extent do you use analytics to check in on performance, or to also keep tabs on your team's performance and how they're serving up your course?
Well, for us, we have quarterly meetings with all of our departments, and so I've been able to put this on. We have a conference room that we go into, and we have a nice size TV in there that we can go through, and we can actually show the results of what we're seeing with the GPS. And so we're able to say, this is where we need to work. This is working for us. And it's been very productive for us. You can see our round times have significantly dropped. The one thing that people don't realize is that the biggest advertising module that anybody has is word of mouth, because it spreads exponentially. I mean, you tell one person, they tell somebody, and pretty soon it's everybody. And in social media nowadays, bad reviews can keep people from coming away. So you always want to have really good reviews when they leave the golf course. So we want to make sure that our customers are extremely happy. So in those meetings, we talk about how we can make things better for them. We don't treat them so much as customers as we do guests, because we feel like they are guests at our golf course. And if they walk away feeling like they had a good experience with a good value, and we're treated properly, they're going to come back. And these analytics that we have help us to find out where we're weak and where we're strong.
Yeah, I think the willingness to learn more about your business, right, and also being open to seeing the gaps and then fixing them, that's the hallmark of good management, right? Jack, I know you love this. This is like a textbook, right? What happened here is exactly what you want to see. What story does this tell you?
Yeah, so just looking at the player group performance, I believe that's a 8:29 tea time that was considered a delayer group. They're that purple color code. And you can see only one group after them was actually held up. So that icon that you see there is a little envelope with, I believe that says 3 interactions were tracked with this group. So not only did Rob's team likely send them a message, but they also went and intervened with this group, had an in-person conversation, and used our Marshall tablets to actually track that interaction. And when you do that, from Rob's perspective as the operator, can see when and where was that interaction logged, and did they make an impact? Yes, they did. Only one group was held up, and you can see that actually in that window of 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., just above there with the pace trend hour by hour. It actually their average round time did not get over that 4:30 mark, despite there being a delayer group. So this, to Rob, can go back to his team and show them, hey, on a day where we did have 37 groups, we had a delayer in the morning, and here's what we did well to correct that, and they can apply that to the peak part of their season as well.
Yeah, I'm just painting a picture here. So and Rob knows that, right? If you don't catch that group, then the other groups behind get delayed, right? And then here, around about here, is where you have a 5-hour round. But that means now 15 groups have been impacted. And if 3 or 4 of them saying, wow, this is really terrible, I have to wait at every shot. And then out of those 12 players, 5 of them go on social media and say, 1 star, it was trash. That really hurts your business, right? So it makes so much sense to get on top of it. And also now Rob can go back to his team and says, hey guys, job well done. You looked at those alerts, you responded, and you caught that group early, and we saved the day. So yeah, that's exactly what we love to see. And maybe 2 more items from an analytics point of view to point out. So here's a hole by hole runtime, hole 1, hole 2, and so on. Here's a halfway house. There's only 2 holes that are slightly off, right? That can happen any day. But if it goes 4 or 5 minutes out, Rob might have a conversation with the superintendent saying, what happened that day? How did we do that setup? So we set ourselves up for a 5-minute loss. Also, we're looking at T-box wait time, which actually on this hole, that's hole number 6, was the biggest impact. And so again, it's all incremental, and it's something that we keep dialing into. How can we adjust also those hole by hole run times to be as optimal as possible, so that we can track against real player flow data and the systems as accurate as possible. And the other portion that's good to look at is the pace distribution. So this little dial down here, it shows anyone who was on faster than pace in various blues, then on pace is green. And you can say, you can see, because this day was so successful, there's not a single red group in this whole display. And again, if Rob and the team didn't catch this group early, half of this dial may have been purple, 2 or 3 bad groups, and then 10 or 15 groups that are delayed, that's orange, right? And then all of a sudden, the average round time shoots up to 4:45 or 4:50. And that's a bad day at the office. And you need to spend so much effort mopping up that day. And people come to you and asking for comps or whatever it is, or you have to appease them on social media where they've rated you badly. It's so much easier to preempt and make sure that you stay on top of it. So again, well done, Rob, to you and the team for being so proactive and also taking it so seriously. But we have to do it, right? Because that's what 76% of players are saying the expectation is of us as operators. So the pace distribution across the season, again, this shows that just a handful of delayer groups cause delays to other groups. And this is on a course that really gets it right. I mean, you guys are 4 minutes off your goal time. So if you didn't put all this effort into it, this would look much, much worse. But also it shows if you catch just a few more delayer groups, this will really start to strip back, right? And then you have much less impact, much more groups on pace. But this is really what good management looks like. And you have on the right-hand side is how many of your groups are 20, 30, 10 minutes delayed or over your goal time. And just keeping tabs of that and looking at the periods. Are we improving? How did we do last year this month? What were the crunch days? Let's pay extra attention to those in the new season so that we can stay ahead of things. And we, again, incrementally bring down our results. And that's when you can then really start to free up additional opportunities for additional tee times, which obviously you want, right? If you can sell them, especially at $175, that's good for your business. Then one other technical aspect in terms of data and how it helps management is what we call the track map. So this is every single round has a history, right? So that's where did these players go? Where didn't they go? What interactions were had? Where did they breach a geofence? All of that is recorded. Did they have a message sent to them? What was their pace status? So you've got this whole world of post-round history on every single round. And Rob, I know that again, players sometimes misbehave and stuff happens. You've got a few stories where this has been helpful to you guys.
Yeah, we had actually, it's interesting you have hole 11 up on the right side there. Just to the right side of the cart path there by the green, that's a very steep slope on the right, and then you'll see some trees down there. We had a cart that actually went down the steep slope into those trees. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but they came in and they told us one story, and so we pulled up the tracking, and when they came in, we said, this is really what happened. And so it helped us to be able to know what we needed to do. And, with the damage to carts and the cart waivers that we have, a lot of people, they just think they can drive wherever they want to drive. And they're not ATV vehicles, they're golf carts. And so it helped us a lot. It was kind of a fun experience because they just looked at each other when they knew that we could track exactly where they had gone. So, I mean, there's several stories like that where people have gone in places they shouldn't have. And, we're not trying to call them out or anything, but we want them to be safe. That's the main thing, is because we have a lot of steep slopes here on this golf course. And we try to tell them that as the starter does. And we want to make sure that they're going where they need to go. And if we have somebody that calls us in and say, hey, the group in front of you is going, in wrong places, we can look it up and we can call our marshal and say, hey, this is where they've been. They can go out and talk to the guests out there on the golf course and say, hey, you guys are driving in places you shouldn't. We're seeing the tracks for here, here, and here. Please keep your carts in these spots. So it does help us, and it does help manage the golf course and help, promote safety for our guests.
No, sure. The other helpful use case that I've seen is very often for a player, perception becomes reality, right? They're perceiving that this has been a 5-hour round, and then a week later they send you an email. Hey, the round I played with you guys where you stung me $175, it was 5 hours and I'm still not over it and I want my money back and it was terrible. Now, what do you do a week later, right? If you don't have data, like it takes a lot to tame that beast. So again, you can go back to the history. Okay, when did you play? What was your tee time? Yes, I can see your name. Here's actually what happened, right? And you played your round in 4:35 versus our 4:30 tee time. And if you can just send that data back to them, very often it's conversation over. And if you can't, well, what are you going to do, right? Because if you don't respect your customer, no matter how unreasonable you think they might be, they find ways to tell everyone about it on social media, which hurts, right? And then, you kick off an avalanche that's hard to tame. Okay, getting back to the players, how have your players responded to the technology? And again, look at this amazing landscape. Rob, are you getting feedback on the units? And is it adding to the experience from a player standpoint?
Yeah, they all love the GPS. They work great. The things that we need them to do for us are great. The things that the customers want to see, you can dial these things. The technology for this unit is far and away the best I've seen. There are so many things you can do with it, and we don't utilize every aspect of it right now, but there's a lot of things that we can do with it, especially with golf courses who have exact pin placements every day. We don't do that. We basically go with the front, middle, back of the greens. But when people come in, they say, "We loved your GPS. It helped us, navigate our way around the golf course. We didn't get lost." And they found that they were really close to, if somebody has a yardage device out there, it's really close to what the yardage devices said. So
it's more accurate than the golfer, I can guarantee you that. Thanks, Rob. So I think we're on the hour now, and really appreciate, Rob, all your insight and sharing. I just want to point out 3 of our team here. It's Pat Parenti's over in Phoenix, so he looks after the area with Sean. And David Hamilton is our VP of Business Development. He actually came to me with me over to Falcon Ridge last season when we went to Golf TechCon, which is an NGCOA event. So if you have any questions around the system, I'm sure you can give Rob a call if he doesn't mind. But talk to our team. They're very happy to advise and also see how can we help you. Is there a match between what you want to achieve and what Tag Marshall can do? And we have a whole army of Jacks in our customer success team, super knowledgeable and always here to help. Rob, any parting thoughts for your peers in the Southwest section?
No, I just think that this is a great system, and with this screen up, they do have great customer service. Every time I've tried to get somebody or get an answer to something, I get it immediately. So one way or another, they'll say, "Let me get right back to you," and they do, or they'll have an answer for me immediately. I appreciate that their willingness to serve us. So it makes it a good partnership.
Fantastic. Rob, thank you so much. We'll take that feedback straight back to the team. I know they work really hard and they appreciate hearing it. And we'd love to see you at the next outing to maybe Golf TechCon next season. David and I will come and visit you again. And I know Jack, he's on this webinar and he's going to ask me, when can I go? But like we said, we're going to fly you into Utah and you drive down. You're not allowed to go to Vegas. It's too high a risk for you. All right. Thanks everyone for your time, and the PDR credits will be on your way. And thanks to our partners at the Southwest section. Jack, Rob, it's been great. Really appreciate it. And everyone take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bodo. Thanks, Rob.